Welcome to another segment of the program we call My Life. And usually we have John Ochins that sits in this position and asks all the questions. Well, guess what? We turned the tables on John, and a lot of people have said, well, what's John's background? Where does he come from? Did the stork deliver him, or where did he come from?
Boy, have I made up some stories for you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I can't hardly wait to see this one. Well, everybody around here knows that John is very talented. He has done schooling around, which people have seen, and very popular show, by the way, on our program on OCC TV. And also, you've done a number of promos. You've done the audio dub over for a website for the township. Very well done.
I've gotten into a lot of trouble, yes.
And you do the editing, too, which really gets you in trouble.
That's exaggerating a little bit.
That's right. Well, I tell you what, John, let's get into your ancestry. Let's start right there. Where did you start? It wasn't from kangaroos or anything.
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't go back quite that far. But as far as I am able to go back, both sides of my family have some German ancestry. Mm-hmm. My great-grandfather on my dad's side was the first Lutheran minister in Ida, Michigan, back in 1860.
Really?
Just after he came from Denmark. And on my mother's side, my great-grandfather set up a meat market in Monroe, Michigan. So that's kind of where, and also on my mother's side, some other folks came from Quebec. That went back to about 1800. But that's kind of where it all got started, down in Monroe, Michigan.
Monroe, Michigan.
By Lake Erie.
Monroe is actually known for General Custer also.
That's right.
Yeah.
He lived there for a while. He married a gal from Monroe.
Did you ever meet him?
Yeah, right. I saw his statue. I met his statue on the horse.
His statue?
Yeah, it was right across from our church. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, back in what they call the good old days, a lot of people that now reside in Michigan did come from Canada.
Right.
So that's not too surprising. And where did your parents settled in Monroe? You apparently went to school in Monroe.
Right.
Grade school?
Yes.
High school?
Yes. I went to Catholic schools, was St. Mary's in Monroe. Belonged to St. Mary's Parish all my life, and to Monroe Catholic Central for high school.
Oh, you had to really watch your P's and Q's.
Yeah, that was an all-boys school. The Brothers of Holy Cross were in charge. And back then, they could carry yardsticks around with them.
Well, that explains why you're so courteous.
Yes.
To everybody. You were taught that with stringent control, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you went to high school there, and then we went to college at that point?
Wayne State University.
Okay. And what did you major in?
I majored in mass communications and political science.
Oh, you want to be a politician?
Well, I thought about it for about 2 minutes. Okay. Then I realized I enjoyed talking to him more than I would be in one.
Where did your career lead you then?
While I was in college in Wayne State, and bear in mind this is back in the late 60s, I got involved in radio part-time. I started out at a little station in Adrian, Michigan, WABJ, and just did some weekend stuff there. That was such a small station. You had to have a third-class license for engineer. You had to read the meters and do the programs. You had to do everything. Clean the men's room, all by yourself.
So did you have a first-class license then?
Third class.
Third class,
yep,
okay.
Third
class you could get on the air, but first class was technical?
Yes.
That was quite a process to take that test.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad I only had to do it once.
Yes.
But anyway, later, after knocking on certain doors a number of times, I was able to be employed by WCAR, which was AM 1130 in Detroit at that time. Mm-hmm. And while I didn't get paid a heck of a lot, it was still kind of a big deal to me to be involved in a radio station in the fifth largest market.
Right.
Again, it was just part-time. I was still a student at Wayne State, but it did give me some experience doing news and a little bit of DJ work on the weekends, that sort of thing.
Now, the news that you did for the station, was it live news that you did, or was it pre-recorded, or?
It was live.
It was all live?
Yep, it was live. Every half hour we had a 5-minute newscast, but also I was on the road for them, which gave me an opportunity to meet some of the famous local politicians of the day, like Mayor Jerome Cavanaugh and the guys who were on the city council, Mel Ravitz and a number of others. So it was a thrilling experience, really.
That didn't encourage you to get into politics yet?
No.
It did not?
No, okay. It did not.
All right, well, let's get a little further down the line here then. You were in radio. Did you ever do any television, or is it strictly radio?
Never did.
Didn't?
Never did, only in the classroom. And at Wayne State, our classroom was the studios of Channel 56, which back then was in the old school center building right there on Woodward.
Oh, yeah. I remember TV station 56 quite well when I was
Yeah,
a
well,
kid.
they're still around, but they've got
They are.
newer and better facilities right now.
Yeah.
Back then, our cameras looked like big boxes with the letters RCA on the side.
Boy, they sure did. And did take a while to warm those up, right?
Yep, it did. It did.
You started the day before to warm them up.
Well, somebody did, yeah.
Somebody did. Okay, well, let's talk about your immediate family more so. How did you meet your wife? I know you're married. How did you meet her?
Well, I met her in the first grade.
In the first grade?
Yeah, St. Mary's School, Monroe. Absolutely. Her parents had a farm out on Stewart Road in Monroe, and I lived on Lavender Street near the Hall of Divine Child down in Monroe,
Uh-huh.
and we both went to the same grade school.
Did you, in the first grade, say, wow, that's a cute chick, I'm going to marry her?
Well, I did kind of have my eye on her, yeah.
You did, okay.
Yeah, but we started dating in junior year of high school,
Wow.
and things went on from there.
Did she also attend the same college you attended, or no?
No, but she did go to school in Detroit. She
Okay.
decided to go into nursing, and back then Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit had a 3-year, year-round nursing program, so she enrolled in that and got her nursing background.
I know you have children, too.
Yes,
How many children do you have?
4.
4, and they are?
Scott, Kurt, Mark, and Katie.
Okay, 1 girl.
1 girl. 3 boys and a girl. The girl's the youngest.
I see. And what do the boys do?
Well, Scott is the oldest, and he's an area manager for a medical supply company called Medtronics. He handles the state of Michigan. He handles all the salespeople that they employ in the state of Michigan, and I'm very proud of him. He's doing very well. He got a master's degree in business.
Wow, that's great. What about the second one?
Kurt is a chiropractor. He's the only one of our 4 kids who ended up going back to Monroe. So we do have a family business in Monroe again, and that's my son Kurt, the chiropractor.
And a guy can use one of those, I think.
Yeah, just
once in a while.
just to keep our name around there.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Mark, who is an area manager for EchoStar, or the Dish Satellite Company. He oversees 4 or 5 offices for them here in Michigan. And Katie is a nurse practitioner in the Henry Ford system, so we go back to our Henry Ford roots. She's in Henry Ford, West Bloomfield, neonatal.
I'll be darned. I, of course, had a daughter work for Henry Ford also. So
Really?
we had common. Yep, somewhat.
Is she still there?
No, she works for the station now sometimes, but
Oh.
she's also, you know, Julie.
Yeah, I sure do.
Yep. So that's kind of her background, too. So interesting enough. I didn't
Yeah.
know that about you before.
Small world.
It is a small world. Is she married or not?
She is. Altogether, we have 12 grandkids.
Wow.
And
Busy little rascals,
Yeah,
huh?
in fact, we're going to be great-grandparents here in September.
Well, congratulations.
Wow. We're getting old, aren't we?
Well, I don't know about you, but when I look in the mirror, it doesn't really look like me anymore.
I know. That's not me.
Yeah, but it can happen. And the sons, they're married,
They're all married.
Okay.
Yep, they are.
and they have children also. Apparently, you have 12, so I don't think they.
Oh,
came
yeah,
all
they're
from
all
the
they're all
girl.
kind of spread around.
Okay, spread around.
Yeah.
Okay, real good. Well, that's interesting to know. A lot of things there I wasn't aware of. Let me just say another thing. You mentioned that your grandfather was in the ministry.
He was. Actually, he came from Denmark around 1860. His name was John Jacob Ochens, and he settled in Iowa, where he went to seminary and became a preacher. And then from there, he came back to Michigan. He married a gal who was also from Germany, and he was the first Lutheran minister at Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Ida, Michigan.
Well, that's very interesting stuff, and we'll get back to John right after this.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Hogan, host of a new show called Let's Get Strolling. And what I do is I interview local businesses and interesting and fun people, sometimes event planners, sometimes the residents of Oxford, maybe next time it could be you. Join me next time on OCTV on Let's Get Strolling.
Hey Lakeville, you're watching OCTV.
Your local business.
Your police department.
Your local business.
Your Village of Oxford.
The schools. Your parks and recreation.
Your community.
Your community.
Only on OCTV.
Welcome back to My Life with John Ochins being interviewed here. One thing I wanted to ask you is you also went into private business, didn't you?
I did. You know, I was in broadcasting until, well, my senior year of college. And I ran into a fellow at one of the stations I was working for who worked for a big insurance company. And he was an underwriter, and he started telling me what he did and how he did it and the benefits and so on and so forth. And you know, I was married at the time, and I was thinking to myself, well, if I want to pursue the broadcasting career, I would probably have to chase it around the country, and I really was not sure I really wanted to do that with my family roots and everything. So I kind of followed this other guy, and I joined the underwriting department of this big insurance company. It was a national company, and did that for a while and eventually became an agent.
Well, that's terrific. And you did that for how many years?
Well, I was with that company for 30 years.
Wow.
And retired in 2000 from there.
Well, being you mentioned broadcasting again, I want to bring you back to WCAR.
Right.
I understand that you had some interesting stories to tell when you worked for the station. One of those was the riots in Detroit.
Yeah, you have to remember, I was there during the late 60s, and in 1967, that's when the Detroit riots occurred. And our studios were down in the Masonic Temple in downtown Detroit.
Wow.
And I can remember going up on the roof of the Masonic Temple with a couple of the other guys, one of whom is still in radio, Gene Fogel, he's with WJR. And him and another fella, Jim Davis, had just gotten back from Vietnam. And they were standing there with me looking at the fires going off in the downtown area, and they said, you know, this looks like just where we came from.
Yeah.
So it was really something. And you know, working for the station, we had press passes, which enabled us to go pretty much anywhere we wanted to, despite all the curfews and stuff that were in force at the time. And another fellow from the station, a guy by the name of Ron Rose that people may be familiar with, he's got a production company and has had for many years now. He and I were in a car driving around, and we were watching, you know, all the looting going on, and the people who were doing the looting kind of looked at us like we were the ones in the wrong place, not them, like we were kind of in their way.
How'd that make you feel?
Very weird. Very weird indeed.
Did you have any kind of security with you at all?
No, just us.
Just you?
Just us and our press pass in the window. That was it. And the National Guard was all over the place outside, and the police were all over the place. And one of the most unusual feelings was driving down the John Lodge Freeway and being the only car on the road. And I mean the only car on the road. It was like a science fiction movie.
That make you feel out of place?
Very much.
Very much out of place.
Very much, yeah.
If they jump on the hood of your car, just show your pass.
Yeah, right.
That'll get you by, right? Well, those are
Exactly.
pretty dangerous times.
Yeah, it was scary. And you know, I mentioned my wife was in the nursing program at Henry Ford Hospital. Well, she was treating patients over there at the time, and they had to use flashlights. They couldn't put their lights on and, you know, crawl underneath the window ledges to get from one side of the room to the other so they wouldn't get shot.
Wow.
It's like being in a war zone.
But they did have police at the hospitals, I think,
They had
didn't
some
they?
there, yep.
Some security.
That's right.
Whereas you're out there in the middle of nowhere. Well,
Well-
somewhere with no help if it were to be a problem, right?
They had plenty of National Guard around.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of fellas activated for that back then.
Well, that's very interesting. Well, let's talk about military.
Okay?
You were in the service as well, understand?
I was in the Air National Guard.
Okay.
And, you know, that was the time of the Vietnam War. And I had a student deferment while I was going to college. But obviously, when I got my degree, that disappeared. And by, you know, it was right around that time that I was married and my wife was pregnant. We had our first child, Scott, in 1970. And I tried to manage my life. I didn't particularly care about what was going on in Vietnam. I mean, you know how it was. Every day we'd watch Walter Cronkite, and hundreds of our friends and relatives would be killed over there for a cause that I just could not get behind. And yet I felt loyal enough to my country that I didn't want to run to Canada or doing something like that. But so I figured the only logical way to do it would be to try and manage the military thing. And being a college graduate, the only way that I could get into the Air National Guard was if I was willing to go into officer training. Now, because of my eyesight, I couldn't be a pilot, so that was out of the question. But anyway, there was 7 of us that took this test. And, let me put it to you this way, there was a whole room full of us that took this test, but only 7 of us passed. I was lucky, the other guys were smart.
I don't know about that.
But we were, well, you know how it was. I mean, guys were lined up down the street and around the block to get into the National Guard back then, because back then, the National Guard stayed here.
Yeah.
They didn't send them over there. It's not quite the same these days.
Yep.
But anyway, so I got into the Air National Guard, spent 6 years going to Selfridge Air National Guard Base every weekend and a couple weeks during the summer, and took care of that.
Right. You
Took care of that.
You wouldn't want to have that mindset now that I'm going to get in the National Guard and be safe in there.
I
It's not
know.
going to happen today.
No, and you know, back then they talked about that. They said, you know, there's going to come a day when the country's going to depend on the National Guard a lot more than it does right now, and that's going to change. But it wasn't back then, and thank goodness for that.
Well, I think it's it tells a little about your character and the fact that you decided to stick it out here and not run for Canada as other people did, and have that allegiance, to the American people.
Well,
So
I feel
think
better
that's a good
about it,
thing.
that's for sure.
Trust me, knowing what we know about what went on over there now, we wish things would have went a lot different, obviously, but that's a whole different subject that we
Exactly.
spend time on.
Exactly.
But that being said, let's also go into more of how you got into doing these programs here. How did you end up with this job at OCTV?
Well, I was retired, and my wife saw an ad in the paper for a cameraman. I think she was trying to get me out of the house because we were both retired. And she said, why don't you call these guys? So I gave Bill Service a call, and I said, I really don't know how to use a TV camera. I was mostly in radio, but I've got this degree, and I haven't used it in a while. He said, well, why don't you come over?
Yeah.
So I came over, and you taught me how to use the doggone thing.
Yes.
So I know I got a long ways to go, but at least I know how to turn it on and off.
And very much a fast learner. I gotta say, very good learner.
By very patient people, I may say. Yes.
Well, I think we have a pretty good crew here.
We do.
And they do make you feel at home. And I found too that if there's any questions you have, you can, they're not hesitant in pitching in to help.
Well, if you work for a community television station, your crew is mainly made up of 2 kinds of people. Young people who are learning and old people who are learning. And you know which category we're in.
I don't know which one it is. You want to tell me? Okay. Well, we're going to talk about how you got involved in Schooling Around, because I know that's one of the #1 programs that people watch out there in the community. And we'll discuss that when we come back right after this. John Ochins.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website, dogsaver.org, and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
Welcome back to My Life. I'm Elgin Nichols, and I've got John Ochins here on the griddle. And we're talking about John's life, which is very interesting. I want to say that, honestly, I'm proud to know John, that he is one of the nicest guys. You wouldn't really believe it once you met him first
Yeah, I
time.
know.
But yeah.
What do I owe you, Elgin?
You don't owe me anything on this one. It's a freebie. But very talented also. He does all of his own editing on programs that he runs.
Well, that's exaggerating a little bit.
You don't do it up?
I don't edit. No,
Your wife does it.
Ask Terry, she'll tell you. No, Terry and the crew take good care of me, especially Dan's wife. Yeah.
Oh, I see you on the computer all the time. What are you doing there?
I'm just pretending. Is
Just
what I'm doing.
I see you there for hours.
I'm pretending.
Pretending for hours. Does Bill Service know this, the manager?
Oh yeah. No,
doesn't
seriously, what I do on the computer is mainly isolate my shots from the interviews that I've done, and tell Dan's wife or one of the editors the ins and outs, and they take it from there.
How did you end up with a schooling around program that you do? Is that something you came
Bill
up
Service told me to.
with? Bill has a habit of
No, well,
doing that kind of thing.
seriously, we got to thinking, here we are, a community television station. And hey, the schools are one of the most important parts of the community.
Yeah.
And you don't see stuff on our schools, for the most part, on, the big stations, the 247, 56 and whatnot, unless something really explosive comes along. So we decided to have a go at it.
I see when you do these programs, you're very exploratory and very factual. You want to get your story straight.
Well, yeah, and I think that's important, and there's so much that the public doesn't know, that I didn't know, that goes on in our schools. And it was a real treat to finally get the doors open for us so that we could go in there and talk to the teachers and the principals and the administration about the programs and the things that are going on. And I'm pleased to say that they respect us to the point now where they welcome us into our office and are very anxious to talk about the different things that they're doing. And my goodness, if you look at robotics and all the different things, the health, occupational programs, we all know about all the sports stuff, and that's really good too in Oxford schools. But rarely did you hear about some of this other stuff. And we've got kids winning prizes right and left at these competitions around the country, even on the national and world level.
Well, we have a great rapport with the school system now, which we didn't have before, and I think you're to be complimented on that. I think
Thanks.
it's your doing. Originally, I know we were looking for somebody to handle this part of it with the school system, that people will feel comfortable with the school system, and we as well, in working with them. And along comes John.
For better or worse.
No, it's better. So anyway, Bill says, John, come here. And the rest is history, right?
Yeah, indeed it is.
Great show, one of the most popular ones we have on the air.
Well, thank you.
Yep. And you've done others too, behind the scenes. You've done voiceovers and that kind of thing too at the station here. You've written copy, I know.
I just can't stay out of trouble.
You
Yeah, I
can't. No, absolutely cannot. So anyway, now where do you live now? You don't live in Monroe.
No. My wife and I have lived in Springfield Township over in Davisburg for about 14 years. And actually we're thinking of moving. We're not sure where just yet, but basically it's a question of downsizing and getting a smaller lawn to mow, and maybe only one story, so there's no steps for us old guys to climb up. You know the drill.
Yeah, John's a lot older than me.
You've been there and done that, haven't you?
Yes, I have. We've downsized. That's when we ended up in Oxford, but that's a whole different story that you picked up on a different time.
That's
when you
right,
interviewed
we
me.
did.
I get to do the dastardly deed now. That's fun.
I know.
I want to ask you, what do you do in your free time? What do you do for entertainment?
Well, we spend a lot of time with the 12 grandkids. We
Okay.
really do. And when you have a house on the lake, you know what happens. They come over a lot, and I'm pleased that they do. We have a ball with them. They range in age from 21 down to 4. They're mostly girls, except for 2 of them, one of whom is Gabriel, and he's here helping us out right now in the editing room.
He's doing a great job, by the way.
Yeah.
Takes after his grandpa.
Well, My wife and I have, our family owns a place near Tawas that we've been going to since the early 1970s, and we just love going up there.
And that's on a lake too, but it's not
on a little
Lake
inland
Huron.
lake. Right, it's about 10 miles away from Lake Huron. But you know what it's like. I don't have to tell you what it's like up there. I mean, it's one of the most peaceful places on earth. And it's nice to be able to go there once in a while and just collect your thoughts.
Yep. And as you well know, that's kind of my old neck of the woods up there, so I know the area well. And people, when I first moved here, said, "What are you doing moving here?" when you're from up in that area. And the same with John. But you guys attached to a lake. He can't be very far from a lake. I don't know if he has web feed, but your grandkids visit you up there too, I know.
Oh yeah. We were just up there for the 4th of July and turned a peaceful place into a not so peaceful place for a few days.
All the neighbors.
Made a lot of noise, yeah.
Oh, the neighbors are glad you're gone?
Well, they did the same thing, so.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. How that works. What are your future plans? What are you going to do in terms of the station or in terms of...
Well, I enjoy working here. You know, I don't know what goes through your mind, but I think there will come a day when I'd like to be back up there, when I don't have to worry about going home by a certain day and be able to take our time putting in a garden and doing repairs and putting our toes in the water and so on and so forth. I don't know when that's going to be. We're thinking about that.
Well, it's different when you don't have to go by a clock.
That's the thing.
There's no question.
Yeah.
And you're kind of retired now, semi-retired, right?
Right.
And this is not like a real job. It's fun, isn't it?
You know what this is. I mean, this is a ball.
But you do have to have the technical skills and the creative skills to make this work. And John has both. Very pleased to know John all these many months.
Well,
that he's
things
worked
mutual.
Here.
We've got a good crew here.
Yep.
We've got a place to be proud of.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody that we'd like to not have with us.
Me neither.
On a boat.
On a boat, yeah.
On an island. maybe none.
Yeah,
if you have to work for food.
We need to have a programming meeting with a cocktail on my boat. Yes.
Yeah. And we do attend a number of meetings here also. With not only various businesses, we deal with the village, the township, and those people.
Absolutely do, and that's very important. That it is the only opportunity that all of the Oxford residents have to view all of these meetings, whether it be on the Channel 191 or the AT&T or on the web, which everybody who's on the web, can view. And even if, we talk about the games we broadcast, the plays, the concerts we broadcast, even if these kids have grandparents who live across the country, they can pull it up on the web and watch their kids perform. I think that's a really important thing. Yeah. And if people pull up any other community station and watch what they have, they'll know what a gem we have here.
Absolutely. Well said, John. And again, it's a pleasure to have you as a
My
friend.
pleasure talking to you and being here. You
Very
betcha.
Well done. John Ochins.
A small town with a lot of heart and history. A hidden gem with a sense of community. Welcome to Leonard.
Hi everyone, don't forget you can purchase DVDs of your favorite shows from OCTV, whether it's Minutes by Minute, Our Community Access, or Connie's Kitchen. Just call the station. Our number is 248-628-9658. And enjoy watching all of our shows on OCTV.